Welcome back to Open Line, talking about the Safekeeper Law in Tennessee. Happy to have with us former mental health provider for Tennessee Prison for Women, Allie Winters. She's now TSU professor. This is something she's been focused on for years and saw firsthand while you were there at Tennessee Prison for Women. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Lucy. Hello, Lucy.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, what's on your mind?
Is it Dr. Winters?
Yes, Dr. Allie Winters.
Well, madam, I feel for you, because you know you've studied psychiatry and psychology to get into people's psyche and help them with their blessed little souls, and to have to stand there and observe this has got to be hard on you. I don't see why you don't have any residual effects from this, being a practitioner in your field. I just don't see why, you know, it hasn't permanently affected you, and maybe it might not hit you for years to come, but I couldn't do it. Since you're a doctor, you understand what a sensory deprivation tank is, don't you?
Yes, I sure do.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I remember, if you put the average person in a sensory deprivation tank, most people will freak out and go nuts in 8 minutes. They will have almost a psychological break. For the life of me, I just cannot understand why people do not understand that this will permanently damage you. This breaks your mind to be deprived of human interaction like this, to be a quote-unquote normal person. It breaks a person, and I just did not know that this was going on. You put people in solitary confinement to break their mind, to punish them. And you know, if you've got a website or an organization, I would like to know about it, because I am ashamed of the state of Tennessee to be allowing this to go on. I just say I'm truly disturbed by this, and I am ashamed. So
well, Lucy, thank you, Lucy. Thank you for the call. All right, what?
That is just a genuine, wonderful lady right there. Thank you, Lucy, for your sentiments, and I hear what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. There is a part of this that has been extremely frustrating for me, to know that people are suffering and there was nothing that I can do to help them, you know, in the immediate term, you know, to more specifically, you know, to what Lucy is talking about is the environmental conditions of solitary confinement and what that does to you neurologically. And without getting all into that, because I could talk forever about that, there is almost like this, well, it's called a syndrome. It's called the shoe syndrome, actually, and it's a set of symptoms that have been consistently documented for people who have been stuck in solitary confinement for at least 15 days or 15 days or more. They start developing this cluster of symptoms that is very, very, it's almost like a hybrid between sensory deprivation but also almost this kind of combat related PTSD. It's a strange set of symptoms, and I saw it almost like clockwork every time somebody would come in. A safekeeper would come in, and they would obviously be scared and confused and not knowing what's going on, but probably within, you know, 3 weeks they would start showing some of these symptoms. And what are they? It's a neurological change that happens as a direct result of solitary confinement. Yeah.
My goodness. And why are they stuck there? They're stuck there why? For so long?
That's a good question. Safekeepers, once they come into the system, their issues are, you know, addressed. But let's just say, take our pregnant lady, for example. She gives birth. and her issue that brought her into safekeeping is resolved. Well, there is no central policy at the Department of Correction that drives communication back to the sending counties. So nobody is actually letting the county know that that issue has been resolved and that inmate is ready to go back.
How many would you say would be ready? Now, pregnant seems like a very specific example. How many would you say were ready to go back? Because if it's mental illness, I would say, well, you know, I don't know if that's going to get better in the time they're there.
They can get stabilized to some degree, and my argument would be, let's get them out of solitary as soon as possible. But there's no going back. Once you come in as a safekeeper, you get stuck there. Now, I do understand that DeBerry does a pretty good job of communicating with the counties on their own and getting folks from DeBerry back to the county jails. And I think that is a product of necessity, because those beds are really important to the Department of Correction, and they serve such a vital purpose in treating medical conditions and mental health conditions that can't be addressed at any of the other facilities. So DeBerry has a great system for getting people back. But the bottom line is that you know, there is no central driving policy, so a lot of people at Riverbend and at Tennessee Prison for Women get stuck there. And they're, you know, oftentimes you're talking about people who get stuck for years. You know?
And then they could be found not guilty.
Right. Right. We have to assume that every safekeeper is innocent. You know, I mean, they're innocent, so they need to be treated as if they're innocent. Yeah.
Let's go to Robert. Hello, Robert.
Yeah.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Okay. You know, most of this problems seem, talking about mental illness is usually they've been abused, or they're hurt, or, you know, abusing the drugs, opioids, or alcohol. Instead of cleaning up the social problems, it just kind of gets criminally worse or corrupt. I don't want to name any government officials that have been dealt with lately, but you know, it's just terrible what abuse can do. Like you said, they get sent to the judge, try to do the best they can with the laws they have, but that's not good enough. It's man or money. They'd rather, you know, if they had this, what is $1 billion a year on the road, they'd have better hospitals, they'd have better police. I believe in that stuff, and we're just kind of deteriorating.
They're limited resources. Thank you, Robert. It's come up in some of the Facebook comments and more than once, the lack of mental hospitals. You, again, on the front lines as a health provider, Tennessee Prison for Women, how great is the need for more mental health beds?
You know, ever since they closed the state mental hospitals back in the 1970s, you know, that has kind of fed a lot of the mentally ill in the criminal justice system. They came out into the communities. The communities had limited resources to address the mental health issues of folks with severe mental illness, and somehow, some way, they ended up being routed into the criminal justice system, and that's across the nation. That's not special to Tennessee. Excuse me. You know, you're talking about an increasing population that has severe mental illness, as what Robert suggested. You know, you're talking about people who maybe have a history of trauma, have a substance abuse problem. Of course, you know, there are huge substance abuse issues in the state of Tennessee, and we just seem to be really criminalizing all of these things, and the criminal justice system seems to be the recipient of these things. I don't know as if the criminal justice system really wants to have to deal with these things, but they're almost like the de facto people.
Nobody knows what to do.
Exactly.
So they send them to jail.
I know, and we've got to develop better community responses to these things, where we can keep people out in the community and get the help that they need.
And what do you see as far as the opioid problem? That's a huge issue. Drug addiction and that kind of thing. You know, as far as what we're talking about here with Safekeepers, what impact has that crisis had on this situation?
You know, that's a really good question, and one that I can't really answer. I can speak from experience that a lot of the women that I treated at Tennessee Prison for Women were there. I mean, well, just not even people that I treated, just incarcerated women in general are oftentimes there for nonviolent drug offenses. I mean, that's the majority of why incarcerated women are there, is because of nonviolent drug offenses, and oftentimes it is this opioid stuff that's just really hitting us hard. But yeah, I gotta say that so much attention is being paid to the opioid crisis, but there has been a long history of addiction, and the communities have not developed the substance abuse treatment that is so necessary.
And I want to take a break, come back, and then talk about the juvenile aspect of this. I mean, that's the other shocking thing. The juveniles are being sent up to state prisons because counties don't know what to do with them. So we're talking about juveniles in solitary confinement in a state prison. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.